It's Hezbollah that has been attacking Israel for 9 months. It is Hezbollah that's the terror organization that holds a cache of weapons, which is unheard of. And Hezbollah, like Hamas, puts all of those capabilities at the heart of civilian arenas, inside the civilian communities, inside the homes, the houses, and like we've seen also in the Gaza Strip, it'll be in schools, in mosques, and in hospitals. And we need to call that out.
As Israel fights to free the hostages and drive Hamas from power in Gaza, another terrorist army on Israel's northern border is provoking a second war that could cause devastating destruction. The day after Hamas carried out the October 7th massacre, Hezbollah opened up a second front, launching rockets, drones, and missiles at Israeli communities in the north. Hezbollah's attacks haven't stopped. The daily barrages have destroyed Israeli communities and forced more than 80,000 Israelis to flee their homes. No country would tolerate these relentless attacks. And while Israel is striking Hezbollah in Lebanon, it may need to respond far more forcefully to stop Hezbollah's attacks. Joining us today from Israel to discuss this pressing threat is retired IDF Colonel Miri Eisin. Miri is one of Israel's most respected national security experts and the former director of the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University. Miri, thanks so much for being with us today.
Always a pleasure to be with this audience.
Let's start with what's been happening since October 8th. Why did Hezbollah decide to launch this second front, and what's been happening in the months since?
The rhetoric that Hezbollah tells us is that they joined in to help the Palestinians. But what we're talking about is a meeting of interests. Hamas started something that we were looking at Hezbollah as possibly doing themselves, a kind of combined ground, air, sea attack. And Hezbollah has been using all of their capabilities. In the beginning, it was more directly along the borderline. And over the last 9 months, it has, I want to say, evolved, has extended to much further beyond. Hezbollah is looking to both show that they're the protector of Palestine, but what they're trying to do right now is to continue the instability, the direct attack against Israel, and they say it openly in their own words. They want to destroy Israel and free Al-Quds, Jerusalem. That at the end is what they're most interested in.
It's been 18 years since Israel last fought a war with Hezbollah, and we know that the terrorist group has become much more advanced. Talk to us a little bit about how Hezbollah has changed in terms of its weapons, its technology, its tactics, and the threat that Hezbollah now poses to Israel.
In 2006, Hezbollah fought. First, they did a cross-border attack, attacked and killed Israeli soldiers and kidnapped several. And the main thrust of what they did at the time was what I'm going to call land missiles and rockets, meaning they fired the type of Katyusha rocket into Israel, what we call a statistic type of weapon. And they did so pretty much to 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 30. And when they wanted to go really far, they did the 70 kilometers altogether. They fired around 4,000 rockets. It is now 2024. Hezbollah has over 150,000 rockets. That is 10 times the amount that Hamas has. It is not only about the capability itself, the numbers, it's about the quality and the type of weaponry. They've advanced into different types of ATM, anti-tank guided missiles. They have a variety of different aerial platforms. Those are different types of unmanned aerial vehicles, different type of drones, as we call them, and all of them both have longer range capability, and a lot of them have guidance systems. So we're talking about an upgraded capability and also much more in numbers. And I would say that at this stage, they've pretty much used almost every type of weapon against Israel, but they haven't used anything firing long range in. They could do so, that they haven't yet done.
Let me follow up on that real quick. You mentioned they've used most of their arsenal. We know that Hezbollah has precision-guided missiles. Have they actually used those precision guidance capabilities?
So they're using the anti-tank guided missiles that are precision missiles themselves, ground missiles, literally to take out pretty much every home you mentioned before. The tens of thousands of Israeli citizens who live in towns, communities, kibbutzim, moshavim, cities along the inside Israel, near the border. And Hezbollah has been using the guided missiles to directly target inside those different towns. They actually, Hezbollah have put out infographics where they boast about the fact that they've destroyed 27 buildings in one community, 58 buildings in a different community, and they put out those names very clearly. In addition, they're using the different type of aerial platforms. Most of those have very exact guidance systems. They're kind of built in. Some of those systems are the ones that we've seen mainly with Russia using against Ukraine, but overwhelmingly all of these are supplied by the Islamic regime of Iran, and they supply them not only to Hezbollah, but also to Russia. So they've already used them both against the close communities and against different military targets up north. They have a lot more that they haven't used, both in the range and in the type that they've gotten from Iran and have not yet used in this war.
It's a pressing threat, obviously, and we've seen Hezbollah come out recently with footage, drone footage, showing strategic sites across Israel. You mentioned you're in Haifa. Strategic sites in Haifa and other cities that they could target with those precision-guided capabilities. We know that an all-out war could see mass destruction across Israeli cities, staggering death tolls. Give us a sense of how Israeli security planners are preparing for the worst-case scenario.
When you're preparing in that sense, it isn't something that you sit back passively. The Israeli Defense Forces have been preemptively attacking and responding to the different Hezbollah attacks from day one, from October 8th. And I'll add in that it's the Israeli Defense Forces that preemptively pretty much instructed the different Israeli communities up north that for their own safety, to save their lives, that they should move. And that's part of the things that the Israeli government has been trying to help. It doesn't make it any easier for people who have moved away from their homes for the last 9 months and are living, just displaced people inside Israel, even if the country is there to support them. But the IDF itself has positioned themselves both physically along the border, physically attacking the different Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. I like to think of it in the way that what we're trying to do right now with the IDF is to preemptively deny Hezbollah the capability to do what I'm going to call an October 7th type attack, meaning we're trying to deny Hezbollah the capability to be able to launch a combined attack, ground, sea, underground, land, the way that Hamas did on October 7th. But I want to remind everybody, Hezbollah is both 10 times numerically stronger in the amount of weapons that they have. They are much more widespread. And I would even add in that what most people are not aware of is that Hezbollah is not an outer force in Lebanon. It is Lebanese, Arabic-speaking Shiites who are Lebanese citizens, and Hezbollah is a terror army, a terror organization. It's declared as such by the United States, by the EU, by the international Western liberal community. All view Hezbollah as a terror organization, but they're inside at the end. The soldiers, the terrorists themselves live in their houses in southern Lebanon. So the actions that the IDF is taking is against where they put their weapons. And they do the exact same thing that Hamas does. They don't have bases. They don't have military weapons in bases. They use the weapons and deploy the weapons and hold the weapons inside the towns and villages where they live. So all of that preemptive action that Israel is taking and the responsive action to the different firing into Israel is into towns and villages throughout southern Lebanon and further north.
Of course, all of this, Miri, is happening with Hezbollah violating international law blatantly. They are in violation of a key UN Security Council resolution, 1701, which said that Hezbollah needed to disarm and leave southern Lebanon. What would a diplomatic agreement with Hezbollah look like in this scenario, especially given Hezbollah's blatant violations of what was already enacted in 2006?
So a diplomatic agreement means that Israel would also, in that sense, it's something that needs to be done also with Israel. So in its own sense, I give you the challenge for all of our viewers to think about, because what we're talking about right now is if Israel initiates a much larger scale attack against these enormous Hezbollah capabilities, that's not nice. That type of war, as you said, would be all out in a horrific way. But if we don't, then we in Israel, and I'm in Haifa right now, and I'm not that far from the Lebanese border, I need to feel that when I am inside Israel, if I live in a community near the border or far from the border, that Hezbollah cannot attack me with no early warning, the type of attack that happened on October 7th. So in any kind of diplomatic resolution, I would expect the Hezbollah forces, for their own reasons, they'd have to agree to it, for them to move north the forces themselves, for us in Israel to believe that they've moved the weaponry, that they've moved these different type of capabilities so that they're not so near the border. Who would enforce that type of diplomatic agreement? So inside Lebanon, you have a very large international force. The force has been there from 1979. It was upgraded in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War. And that United Nations interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, 15,000 soldiers are there from 40 different countries. Are they going to go and disarm Hezbollah? And that's the crux of the matter. They haven't done it until now. I don't see them doing it afterwards. And who's going to ensure that Hezbollah abides by an agreement that would make them move north? Those are the challenges in front of diplomacy.
Tuning in across the country to watch this are AIPAC members who are engaged with their members of Congress and are reaching out to ensure that our elected officials are educated on both the threat from Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon and understand what's at stake. From your perspective, what role should America play in ensuring Israel has what it needs to deter this threat from Hezbollah?
First of all, we have you, and that's the most amazing part in that sense, that knowing that the backing of the United States, of the administration, of Congress in such a strong way, that makes us stronger. In addition, when we're talking about Hezbollah right now, I want you all to focus on one specific aspect. Hezbollah right now has managed to do something that Hamas managed as well. Hezbollah is portraying that what Israel is doing right now is attacking Lebanon. And it's Hezbollah that has been attacking Israel for 9 months. It is Hezbollah that's the terror organization that holds a cache of weapons, which is unheard of. It is a terror army. It is illegal beyond the fact it's a non-state actor. And everybody right now is focused on Israel attacking Lebanon. Israel is attacking Hezbollah positions in Lebanon. Israel is attacking Hezbollah capabilities in Lebanon. And Hezbollah, like Hamas, puts all of those capabilities at the heart of civilian arenas, inside the civilian communities, inside the homes, the houses, and like we've seen also in the Gaza Strip, it'll be in schools, in mosques, and in hospitals. And we need to call that out. We need our congressmen to know that if it gets even more than it is now, that the targeting that Israel is doing is against what Hezbollah built on purpose inside Lebanon.
Well, Miri, these are critical days. Thank you for being with us today, for sharing your expertise, and we'll continue to follow your insights as all of this unfolds. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you all so much for being with us every single day.
Well, thank you, Miri, and please stay safe. As Israel faces the threat of an all-out war with Hezbollah, our ally will need America's support more than ever. Your voice is essential to ensuring Congress stands with Israel and that America provides Israel with the weapons it will need to defeat its enemies. I urge you to text Israel to the number 24722 today to deliver that key message to Congress. Thank you.